everyone, and a very warm welcome to the iFast US Stocks and ETFs launch. We're very excited to be presenting our latest offering to you as it allows you to create a truly global practice and present your investors with the best investment opportunities in the world. In today's session, you will be hearing from our Managing Director, Eric Horn, who will speak about the benefits and features of the iFast US Stocks and ETFs. You will also hear from our senior research analysts, Rachna Makhija and Krishna Karwa, who will talk to you about the best way to get started with direct investments in the US market, as well as the various research tools and features available on the iFast platform to support that. Well, that's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great session. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Dipali. I hope everyone can hear me well. All right. Very good evening for joining us in this exciting launch that we have for all of you. All right. I think the solution that we're going to share is not exactly new in India because there are a number of platforms that's already offering a US service. But what is different from what we are going to show you and share with you is that this is something not just on the US exchange. It's going to be something that gives access to the world, whether is it in the US or in Hong Kong and the Singapore exchange as well, right? And also the fact that it will be a model where it's open for both the RIAs as well as the MFDs, right? When the RIA can actually earn a fee on giving advice on global investment, right? And also the MFDs can earn a brokerage if the client were to invest through us and trade on their own, where a Singapore app will be provided for them to trade on the US stock exchange, right? And similarly for corporate RIA, the distribution client will also have the same access where they will be using the Singapore app to trade, and then the corporate RIA will also be able to earn the brokerage. So without much further ado, just look at a very simple map of the world. This is actually the map of the world leading capital markets. All right, as you all know, and it's very clear to everyone, is that the biggest market in the world in terms of market cap is US. All right, it's at 57% of the total world's market cap, while India is actually only at 2.5%. China is at 16.8%. Japan is 5.7%, and then you have the UK at 4.2%, and so on and so forth. So what does this mean actually? And of course, before I go into the details of why to invest globally, and just give a short introduction of iFast for some of you who do not know us, right? Firstly, I think our mission statement is actually to help investors around the world invest globally and profitably, right? This is very important for us because this is also one of the reasons why we are so keen, right, to open the doors for investors, for advisors to access the world, because the world is much, much bigger than one single market, right? And we believe that by doing so, the investors can actually benefit. And for us, it's important because our whole business and philosophy is about the investor at the end of the day, right? And when they invest globally, we want to ensure that they can make good profits from the investments as well. Right, iFast Corporation is actually a listed company on the Singapore Stock Exchange. We have been the best performing stocks in the last 1 over year. Actually, we have been just been given the award, right, in the banking and investments service in the $1 billion club. We are currently more than 2.5 billion in Sing dollars in terms of market cap. All right, we started in Singapore and back in 2000. We are currently in 5 markets. We started from Singapore, then we started in Malaysia, Hong Kong, India, and China. And from the group itself, we give access to over 12,000 investment products and services, right? Our AUM, of course, in the entire group is about close to 96,000 plus crores in rupee terms, right? And in Singapore itself, these are the various licenses that we hold, right? We can deal in the capital markets. We are also a fund manager. We are able to provide discretionary portfolios service, right? We are also a custodian. We can provide the custodian services for the securities. We are also an exempt insurance broker, as well as being able to arrange any contract insurance in terms of the life policies. So I was just sharing about the various licenses that we have in Singapore. All right. In India itself, we have been in India for the last 12 years, 12, 13 years. We started in 2008. Right. We are holding the corporate RA license. We are also a trading member with BSE, right, as well as holding the license for insurance, right, where we're able to. We are also a DP with CDSL. Okay, so in a nutshell, we will look at the amount of investment that's gone out of India just for overseas investment. Since March 2020 has been 1.53 billion, right? Have you started looking at this opportunity? Right, it's actually something that has been growing strongly in the last 2 years, especially when we look at the global markets rallying quite strongly. And why are people looking outside of India today? Right, a very simple fact is that there are many countries in the world that are going through different stages of economic development, different stage of growth, right? And if you look at just a simple returns last year, right, you can see each market actually come back in a different return profile, right? So if you look at the Nifty and Sensex, they were around the range of 10 to 20% range in the local currency terms. If you look at, of course, the best performing last year was the US Nasdaq 100. Even S&P did pretty well at over 10%, close to 20%, right? And we look at various countries in the world, as you can see, you know, perform differently. So there is a lot of opportunity, especially if India one day will go through a down cycle as well, like any other country. There will be countries that will be doing better than India, right, in those periods, right? So therefore, it actually makes sense to look at more than one market. And of course, 98 of the world's biggest companies are actually outside India, right? And the Indian stock market actually covers less than 3% of the world market cap, right? And some of the fastest growing sectors are actually not present in India right now, like semiconductors. We have that in Taiwan. They have very good companies. They are supplying chips, right, to all the world's computer and even to your iPhone, right? And then we have healthcare innovation. We also have AI and robotics. So some of these sectors are actually very strong growing, whether it's in China, it's in Germany, right, or in the UK or in the US, right? But if you just invest solely in the companies in India alone, of course, you won't be able to assess the future tech like this. And the other thing, of course, to diversify is also to manage your risk, right? A single market risk is similar to buying a single stock risk, right? So when a single stock tanks, right, of course, you know, as compared to a portfolio of global markets, right, the downside risk is lower than a single market. As well as, you know, if you avoid drawdowns, right, it's actually more important sometimes than just chasing the returns. Because if you have a drawdown, it's actually much harder for you to recover and make profit again. So what is the solution that and the service that we're happy to share is that through a single login, right, you will be able to gain global access. So what does that mean, right? Through the Indian platform login, you essentially can get access to 7 exchanges, right? Singapore and Hong Kong exchange will be next in phase 2. But essentially today, if you start with us, those of you who already have an account on iFast platform, you have clients on the platform, you can actually start to try to open a global account, right? And you can get access to BSE stocks as well as the stocks and ETF in US. And in US, we have 4 exchanges. I believe most of the US platform in India today only offer 2, but we are giving you access to 4 exchanges, over 12,000 global products, and also includes the Indian mutual funds and direct equities and ETFs, right? The cash account, and essentially this global account is based in Singapore. Right, and in Singapore, when you remit the money there, you will actually be holding the money in a USD cash account, which I will go through in greater detail after this slide, right? And it's actually interest bearing, currently at 0.1%. It's a floating rate that's accrued on a daily basis, right? And the whole account opening process is integrated with our Indian platform, which means that you don't actually need to go to another login. It's all in a single login, where you can view all the Indian investments and the global investments. You can transact, you can view the holdings client will similarly be able to do that on the Indian login or the Indian web app. He can also log in to see his Indian investment as well as global investments. And the whole flow and process is completely B2B. B2B means that as an advisor, as a MFD, you are in total control, right? Only you can open the account for clients. And as I shared earlier, as an advisory client, you'll be able to charge fee if you are an RIA. For distribution client, you'll be sharing a brokerage with you, and the brokerage is at 2 bits per transaction, right? And this brokerage will be shared with you and paid out to you on a monthly basis. Okay, fee recovery is actually in rupee terms in India, all right, in the Indian cash account or holdings. When we get the global AUM, okay, it is stored with us on the Indian platform using the Bloomberg exchange rate to convert it to rupee terms, and then we use the AUM to do a daily average AUM to calculate the fees to be charged to the client. Right, this works exactly the same way as our Indian investments. So basically, if the client has Indian investments as well as global investments in one single platform, they can pay fees, right, for both investments. They can also use the cash account in India to pay for the fees, right, for the global investments. And for the client, even if they are getting advice from you, some client might say, okay, I want to trade on my own, right? So the advisor or the MFD can actually decide to give the access to the client, right? And that is something that you can actually give that flexibility. So if the client says he wants to trade on his own, we can turn that on based on your instruction, and then the client can actually start to trade on his own through the Singapore app. In terms of research, my colleagues in the research team will share today with you on our ETF focus list. All the ETFs in the US exchange, we have picked the good ones that we believe will actually make a difference to the client's portfolio. We will also share with you our model portfolio based on the ETF available, all right, on the US exchange. And there are various tools and the reports that we'll be able to share with you, which we will roll out and send it to you after this presentation so that you can actually take a detailed look on the research and the recommended ETFs that we have for you. I'll come on to the features and benefits. Right, so how do you get started? It's actually very simple. If you are an RIA or you are an MFD, of course, you need to start to empanel on the iFast platform, right? And then for the advisory client, they will need to open a rep account. So a rep account to us is actually an advisory account. It's an account that only gives access to direct plans of mutual funds and stocks and ETFs, right? So for advisory client, the client needs to open a rep account in India first. From there, he can actually click on a module where they can link up, all right, and open a global account, right? This global account will have the information from the Indian account where you can pre-populate, and there will be a detailed process on how you can e-sign, right, and to open an account. So a training will be provided to those of you who are interested, a detailed training on how to do the account opening process. I won't go through it in detail here. Right. The next step will be to remit the money from the Indian bank account to the USD bank account in Singapore. Right. The client can be anywhere in the world. They can be an Indian client. They can be an NRI. Okay. And the money can come from India, can come from any bank account in the world. Of course, the US persons, all right, or US residents are not allowed to open an account with us. Right. Only non-US persons are able to open a global account with us. Right. And the other thing to note is that if the client were to send the money, all right, to his investment account, the bank account name of the holder name has to be the same as the investment account holder name. Okay, and similarly, when you withdraw the money, right, the money can also be withdrawn to any bank account in the world, provided that the account holder of the bank account holder and the investment account holder has the same name. Right, that's all that is required for the money to be sent to Singapore and to be sent out of Singapore. And for the MFDs or for the distribution client, it works in a similar way. You will need to open a non-rep account first with the client on the Indian platform. And from there, you'll be able to open the global account, which works the same way as I just described. Okay, so the difference then will be that you can decide again to choose whichever client that you want to enable the DIY experience, which is the client will be able to trade on their own. So talking about the USD account, how it works is that in Singapore, we are licensed to be a custodian as well as an advisor. As I shared with you, the various licenses that we hold. Client essentially will be sending the money to our pool account, a USD pool account in Singapore. And because it's actually in Singapore, okay, there is no capital gain tax, which I will share with you in the tax slide after this. So clients through the LRS can remit up to USD $250,000 per year, right? And it can be sent from the overseas account held in their name. And the withdrawal, as I shared with you just now, will be initiated by the advisor and to be approved by the client. There's a floating interest rate of 0.1% right now on the USD cash account. And of course, take note of the tax 5% tax collection at source is levied under the LRS if the remittance is more than 7 lakhs in a financial year, right? But this can be claimed as a tax credit when you do the tax filing for the client. And of course, the TT charges will be borne by the client. So what about the taxation for Indian residents? Okay, in Singapore and in the US, there's no capital gain tax. Okay, there's also no estate duty tax in Singapore. Take note that when a client opens the investment account, the global account is actually based in Singapore, right? They don't actually open directly with the US partner, with our counterparty in the US. The account is actually based in Singapore, so therefore there's no estate duty tax in Singapore. There's also no capital gain tax in Singapore. Okay, and in India, for Indian tax resident, it's actually global tax. So therefore, there will be a capital gains on the investments that held for less than 2 years. That will be based on the per slab rate. If it's more than 2 years, then it's based on at 20% with indexation. All right. And for dividend income, there is a withholding tax in the US, and that will be paid after the withholding tax has been taken. So 25%. So when the client receives the dividend in the Singapore cash account that we will have, right, it will be less 25% of the US the withholding tax on the dividend income. And under the DTAA, right, the dividend income that is paid in the US can be offset against the tax liability in India, right? So a tax certificate will be generated in the client login account, which you can use it for his tax credit. For the fees and charges, there's a brokerage for every transaction. All right, it's a minimum of US dollar $8 or 6 bps for every transaction, whichever is higher for buy transaction. For sell transaction, is a minimum of 8.02 US dollar or 6 bps, whichever is higher. I just want to share that there's no payment for order flow or rehypothecation. For those of you who are not aware, right? I think there are many brokers. Of course, not all the brokers who are commissions free are doing the payment for order flow, right? We have a brokerage is because there's no payment for order flow at our end. So that is the only main source of income that we have, right? So for many brokers in the US these days, it's actually quite popular with the commissions free trading. Right, and one of the reasons is that because they are getting payment mostly in terms of revenue from the payment for order flow, and that's basically meaning that they are routing the payment flow, right, with the market makers that may not necessarily lead to the best price for the client, right? So those of you who are aware, the likes of Robinhood, right, are facing pressure from the regulator there, and also have been fined for this practice. And there's also, of course, in the talks right now about banning this practice in the US, because many brokers are offering free trading, but in the back end, actually, that may not lead to the best outcome in terms of pricing for the client. Okay. Now, for advisory fee, right, only the percentage fee mode can be charged, right? And of course, it has to be capped at 2.5% on the platform. Now, if the advisor, if the RI is charging an advisory fee, iFast will take 10% of the advisory fee as our admin fee. If no advisory fee is charged, then there will not be any admin fee. So basically, you can decide also if you want to charge any advisory fee. if you charge the advisory fee, you can also decide the scripts, all right, to charge the advisory fee. So you can choose on the scripts. Let's say you only want to charge on ETFs, so you can select the ETF as the AUM to be charged. The client may have holding, let's say, in Apple, in Amazon, and that can be excluded from the fee charging, right? And of course, if it's an advisory client, you will not be earning any brokerage. Okay, you'll be earning only the fee that you charge to the client. And the fee recovery happens on the Indian platform in the Indian cash account, and the fee will be calculated, right, in rupee terms, of course. And as I mentioned earlier, right, the global AUM in US dollar will be converted to rupees on a daily basis, and the AUM that is calculated for fee will be based on the daily average AUM. So just a quick run through on how the transaction works in terms of buy and sell, right? The whole process requires client approval, of course, right? And for the advisory client, every transaction, the RIA will need to put in the rationale and the advice, right? And then that goes to the client looks at the transaction and the advice approves before it goes for execution, okay? There are two types of transaction mode in buy transaction. One is the date, which means that the limit price, if it's not hit for that single day, right, the order will just expire. But there's also a transaction mode called the good till date, which means that if you put a limit price, I want the order to be queued for that price for a particular period of time. So it could be from today all the way to next week or the next month. If any point in time where the price is met, all right, and the execution will happen. So this is very useful because if the client wants a certain price, all right, and you think that it can happen, right, in the next maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, you can just queue the order there for the next entire week. It's all system driven. The client only gives one approval in terms of the limit price. When the market actually hits that particular price, it will be executed, right? Another thing that I want to share, which is good, is that when the client approves the transaction, and if it's done, let's say, through the off-market hours, the order is automatically queued, so that when the market opens, it will immediately be sent to the exchange, right? So that means that if the client approves a transaction after market hours, no problem at all. The transaction will not be voided. It will just simply be queued. The moment the market's open, the orders will be sent to the exchange, right? Client only need to do one approval, okay? And of course, the transaction can be changed, right? But every time you make any changes, anytime you do an edit, the client will need to approve before it's sent to the exchange, right? And there's a minimum transaction of $15 that excludes the brokerage, limit price, and there's no market price, it's only on limit price. The US exchange trading hours is roughly about, in Indian time, 7 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. All right. Why is roughly? Because it depends on the US timing. When there's a season change, all right, the timing will vary slightly. But this is actually quite close to the trading hours, all right? So that is the time that you can trade for the client in Indian timing, right? In the case when client says that, okay, I want to deal, right, and I want to talk to a trader, they can actually call our Singapore dealing desk that is open during the US trading hours, right? So client can, of course, either use the app to trade himself. If you want to give him the access to trade himself, he can call our Singapore dealer to trade as well, or he can simply approve the transaction that's created by you, right? And the other point that is very useful here is that the transaction is based on the total purchasing power. So what does that mean, right? So for instance, if you do a sell transaction and the sell transaction is confirmed, all right, and then let's say the value is $100 and in the cash balance, there's actually another $100, you can actually initiate a buy transaction, all right, of $200 without waiting for the settlement to come to the cash account, right? So this is very useful because you can immediately initiate a buy, right? And buying at the total purchasing power, not just based on the money that you have in the cash account, right? So I repeat, so you can actually buy even faster because any redemption that you do, any sell that you do, the moment it's confirmed, that becomes part of your purchasing power together with the cash balance in the cash account. And that allows you to actually do a buy transaction based on the total purchasing power, all right? And the cash account balance and transaction status is updated real time, right? It's connected to our Singapore platform, right? You can see the cash account and you can see the holdings real time when it's executed. All right, this is actually a very brief run through. There's actually a very detailed training. There's a very detailed FAQ as well in our advisor login, which you can view and read. And of course, if you are keen to attend our detailed training and to understand more, please connect with us, all right, and our BD team, all right, and we will be very happy to share with you how this whole process works. Right now, I will pass this on to my research team, who will share with you our research on the global ETFs and model portfolio. Krishna, you can take over now.
Yes, thank you very much, Eric, for setting the tone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Krishna Karwa, a senior research analyst with iFAST Financial India Private Limited. I'll take you through some nuances in the context of this new form of investing globally that we are introducing. So out here, one common question that everyone has is, why should we invest on US exchanges or any other exchange directly? There are quite a few reasons behind it. The most obvious being geographic diversification and access to a whole lot of big brands out there that you can explore. You can definitely choose better opportunities because the US market in particular and the global markets as a whole are far more diverse in nature. And more importantly, if let's say you have spends in US dollars lined up in the long run, you'd much rather invest at this stage where the dollar is about 75 rupees. And then in the long run, when the US dollar appreciates versus the rupee, you won't have to buy dollars at an expensive rate. And at the same time, by investing over the medium to long term, some returns will definitely accrue to your portfolio. In addition to that, we all have this thing in mind that we want to time the markets a bit and buy on the bottoms. So therefore, you do get that opportunity when you invest in global markets. The ETFs out there are far more liquid in nature, given that trades take place globally. You can leverage views that are expressed by 50 odd analysts across 5 markets of iFAST in across Asia. So as a result of that, you can take decisions a lot better because you have a lot more information available at your disposal. There's also a list of recommended ETFs that we publish once every year, which can help you simplify your decision making. And in case if you are wondering as to how asset allocation should be undertaken, we also have model portfolios to simplify your job. Now this slide shows you the comparison between global ETFs, more specifically those in our focus list. And when we compare this to the entire gamut of global mutual funds in India, here are some of the stark differences. At the outset, if you want to invest in some of the emerging markets, more specifically from a regional perspective, you have an opportunity to do that in case of BRICS, ASEAN, and Latin America. More importantly, if you want to invest in the East Asian space, primarily in countries like China, South Korea, and Taiwan, which are growing pretty fast vis-a-vis the rest of the markets, you have an opportunity to do that as well. On the flip side, there are no such funds available for these 3 specific regions in India. If you want to take any exposure to commodities, for example, if oil is a space that shows some signs of correction because of global weakness, well, you can do that. In addition, if you want to explore sectors other than tech, which is of course the most popular one at this point, you have that option to proceed if you choose the global ETF route. There are not too many global funds in India that help you with on that front. And lastly, in case if you want to invest in global debt, you can do so if you invest directly in the global markets, because there are quite a few ETFs available out there. In India, there are no global debt funds available as of now. However, if you choose to look beyond our focus list, The overall variety will be a lot better if you choose to invest directly. Whereas in the context of global mutual funds that are available in India, your selection universe is much narrower. So one common question that a lot of people would have is, should we invest through global mutual funds, or should we invest in global stocks and ETFs directly? The answer from our side would be, why not combine the best of both and stay invested over a fairly long period of time so that you can derive the benefits that both systems or perspectives have to offer. So at the outset, when you look at global mutual funds, one popular way to average your cost is through the SIP route, where you will buy more units when NAVs are lower and few units when NAVs are higher. At a time like this, where we have seen value and cyclicals outperforming growth, active fund management clearly has an advantage. And also, you don't have to go through the hassle of converting INR to US dollars. You simply invest your SIP of minimum rupees 1,000 a month into a fund, and the AMC in India takes care of the rest. However, if you want to invest directly in global markets, you can do so on a real-time basis, which means you can buy on dips, which is what everyone has been talking about. Because ETFs are a major focus area from our point of view, you also get the benefit of low cost that international markets have to offer. And obviously, as I previously mentioned, you get a whole lot of opportunities that you can explore and take advantage of. Here is an example of how a core allocation or something that is intended from a long-term perspective would look like. If you want to invest in equities, you can divide your exposure between developed markets and emerging markets. Alternatively, if you want to customize that a bit, you can opt for country-wise exposure as well. There's enough customization that you can look forward to in general. If you want to invest tactically, regions like Latin America, ASEAN, and BRICS, which are high risk, high reward in nature, can be looked at. And in conjunction, you can also take a look at some of the sector-specific ETFs, where obviously the aim is to buy when the sector goes through a tough time, so that when the cycle reverses, you can book profits. Let me now talk about one such important and popular theme that everyone has been talking about, and that is cybersecurity. There is no such mutual fund or stock that exclusively caters to this space. And as we all know, in the post-COVID world, digitization is going to be an important theme to look at, and cyber attacks will also grow by the day. Therefore, the protection should not just be limited to the software or cloud applications, but also the hardware aspects as well. It's no surprise then that we see the corporate spending on cybersecurity growing. And if you would like to take advantage of one such growing opportunity, there is an ETF which you can look at, which is called the Global X Cybersecurity ETF. So, well, that brings me to the end of my presentation. And now I would like to invite Rachna Makhija, my colleague, to take you through the remainder of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krishna. I'll just share my screen. Just give me a moment. So, as Eric and Krishna highlighted, that we do have many products through which you can invest into international ETFs. One of them, which I'll be talking about in detail, is the global ETF focus list. So let me start with basics. What is an ETF? We all know that it's a basket of securities which is listed on the exchanges and trades like stocks. It's passively managed with no fund manager bias, and thus advantages like low cost and transparency are associated with it. We have different factors. These are just general factors like the expense ratios, the underlying index, the structure of the ETFs, that is whether it's a physical ETF or a synthetic. Synthetic is the one which invests into derivatives, and tracking difference on the basis of which we arrive at the ETF focus list, the best ETFs to invest into basically. So just talking about the factors in detail, what is expense ratio is nothing but the funds, the expenses which are associated to the managing the ETFs. This is lower, the better. Also, when we are assessing the expense ratio, the underlying index should be similar. As you can see in the slide, these are the three ETFs which have the underlying index S&P 500 index. These are their respective expense ratios. As said, the lower the better. The first two ETFs are preferred as compared to the last one. The other factor is the tracking difference. The ETF performance less the expense ratios should be ideally equal to the benchmark return. Again, this tracking difference should be lower, the better. The spread usually gets wider due to higher expense ratios, high transaction and rebalancing cost, and also hedging costs, which are associated most probably with these synthetic ETFs. These should, again, while comparing, should have common benchmark. Again, this one is, the first one is lower, the better, as we can see. So this is preferred ETF. This is just an example of an international ETF. This ETF invests across the world with a bias of developed markets. As you can see in the pie chart, the allocation to US is around 56%. So these are basically the composition across the geographies. The top 5 sectors which this ETF invests into is the internet, banks, software, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. So these are global sectors. Again, the top 10, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. So just imagine that you are investing through this ETF in this stock directly with the lower cost associated with it. So this is just to highlight that how an international investor looks like. So going into detail of our focus ETF list, which I spoke about, these are the region-wise ETFs. So supposing if an investor wants to invest into global developed markets, the one that is the Vanguard one can be considered. Again, the EM, this one can be considered. As Krishna highlighted, the 4 best emerging markets. So if we want to invest into this, we can invest directly. So these are the opportunities which should be kept. Again, the country-wise ETFs. So supposing if an investor wants to invest into the developed markets, he can consider the US, Europe, and the Japan one. And if they want to invest into single market equities, capitalize the opportunities of investing in semiconductors in South Korea. So this ETF can be considered. So these are the ETFs which are country-wise. Again, some international sectors. I mean, we all want to invest globally, capitalize the opportunities of investing into China financials. Again, the healthcare. Okay, this is the theme which is most talked about, the digital payments. I mean, it is just emerging in India, but if we want to invest into global companies of digital payments, we can directly invest into this ETF. The global financials, the US internet, US tech, which has given the best return last year. Also, if one wants to hedge their portfolio by investing into gold, this ETF can be considered. Again, the invest into oil, the Invesco ETF can be considered. These are basically these 4 ETFs are the ones which are listed on the US exchanges. And also this, we all know that US is the highest rated, US has the highest rated bond. So we all want to invest with a minimum risk. So this is the, again, ETF which one can consider, this one. Also the US high yield, this invests into US corporate bonds. So basically we can take opportunity and utilize and by invest into these ETFs. Also the next product which I would like to talk about is the model. We also have model portfolios, ETF model portfolio. So this model portfolio is basically uses these underlying focus list ETFs, and each model portfolio is customized according to the risk profile of the investor, from conservative to aggressive. So again, for balance to aggressive, we have model portfolios which are based on underlying model. Again, it takes country-wise exposures. So you can definitely get in touch with us and get to know our model portfolio in detail with their respective allocations. This is the end of the presentation. We would request all of you to please post their queries in the chat box and we will answer it during the session. Thank you. That's it from my side.